What are we talking about today?
Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of the What Are We Talking About podcast. I'm sorry if the audio is a little bit messed up on this. Not only am I in the car, but I forgot my microphone attachment. So it might not be the best audio, but we'll go through her anyways. So thanks for watching, by the way. Thanks for joining me today. There's four different topics that I want to talk about today. First things first. We've talked a little bit about electric cars, driverless cars on this show. It turns out that right now, Google is actually hiring driverless car testers in Arizona. So if you meet the requirements, here, let me just grab this. If you meet the requirements, you can earn up to $20 an hour for just sitting behind the wheel and just making sure these cars are, like, basically just testing them and seeing if they're actually doing what they're supposed to be doing, or if any of the mechanics are messed up, or if any of the programs are messed up or anything. Or probably there's a lot of looking for situations in which the programming can be improved. So there was an incident, I think about a month ago, month and a half, 2 months, where it was the first ever in, I believe, Google driverless cars have been on the road for 5 years, I think. That might be wrong, but it's definitely at least 3 years. So for the first time in 3 years, a driverless car got into an accident in which you could consider that the car itself was at fault. So what happened was, there was a situation in which they were supposed to be merging. I think it was in the city though. I don't remember, but yeah, I'm pretty sure it was just in the city. They changed lanes where basically it couldn't, like, it didn't realize that the vehicle coming up on it was a bus and not just a regular vehicle. So it overestimated the stopping ability of that vehicle, and so there was an accident caused by that. So then what happened was the people at Google had to go back to the drawing board. Well, not completely, just they had to go back in and introduce a new algorithm or some new programming to change what would happen in that situation. So there's probably a lot of that going on in this job, where it would be looking for situations in which the programming can be improved in terms of whether it be the actual, like, the car making better decisions and more human-like appropriate decisions, and being able to assess the situation and make the best possible decision. Because the thing is, they can only program a car so well to drive so well in using test situations and stuff like that, and it's only in the real world that some of these issues will come up, and it's better if we can find these issues before it's mass marketed and everyone's behind the wheels of a driverless car. But the beauty of these modern, not smart car the brand, but these actual smart vehicles, is that when that vehicle got in the collision and they had to fix the programming for it, they can then send an update out, similar to how you would see with Apple or now Microsoft. They just update they can update all the cars wirelessly through the internet, making it so that now none of those cars will have that same issue ever in their lifespan. So that's one thing that's a really positive thing. Like, yeah, it's not good if somebody gets in an accident because of a driverless car, but how many accidents are caused every day by non-driverless cars? And that's the thing. I think completely autonomous driverless cars won't be coming around very soon, but we're going to slowly see a change to fully driver assisted. Like with the Teslas, they have the autopilot mode where you can be driving down the highway, turn it on to autopilot, and it uses detection where it can tell where the lines are, it can tell where other vehicles are. And they also have a dynamic cruise control where lots of vehicles have this. It's not just the Teslas, where you can set cruise at, say, 110 kilometers an hour. And if you come up behind a car that's going less than that, say 100 kilometers an hour, your car will adjust accordingly and slow down so that it doesn't just run into the back of the other car. And then if you go auto drive, it takes one step further, and you don't need autopilot. You don't even need to touch the steering wheel. In fact, turning the steering wheel takes it out of autopilot. So if you're driving and it's an autopilot, you're supposed to have your hand still rested on the wheel just in case you need to take control. But all it is to take control is you just turn it about that, like, enough that now you're in control, right? Like, you'll be able to tell. And I've never actually driven a Tesla, but I've done some research involving videos of people driving Teslas and reviews of the cars themselves and stuff like that. So I can't wait until I actually eventually get to drive one myself. I would love to right now just pre-order a model Tesla Tesla Model 3. But I don't think I should. First of all, financially, I don't think I can afford it right at this minute. I need to save up some money before I do that, just so that I know that I have disposable income, right? Secondly, where I live, central Alberta, there's not much for infrastructure involving electric vehicles and stuff like that. So when it comes to, if I wanted to use it as my daily driver, like my commute vehicle to work, we would have to rig up a plug-in at work for me to be able to charge, kind of thing, because there's not like there's not a electronic fueling station where I can go charge up my car or anything like that, right? And you can't just plug it into a normal wall socket. So in some of these more rural areas, it's definitely gonna take a little longer than in, say, cities, or even just like some of the more advanced. Like, first of all, it's harder to gain any infrastructure in the farther north you get, because you spend so much more, the government has to spend so much more money repairing the infrastructure that is around, that there's less to just spend on new infrastructure, right? So a higher percentage of roads are paved, I would say, in the States than in Canada, because if a road is paved in Canada, you almost have to repave it every like 2 or 3 years, because of, that's a little exaggerated, but you have to repave it way more often because of the heating and cooling, the more extreme temperatures that the road or whatever undergoes, the more likely it is that it's going to need to be repaired or replaced. And so when I go visit my dad in Florida, that's how I wish it could be up here, where it's like they don't ever have to deal with snow plows, so there's little reflective lights all along all the white lines and the yellow lines, making it easier to see at night. And then just the roads themselves are just better because there's less cracking and stuff like that due to the opening, due to the heating and cooling caused by the different months, right? The different seasons. So there's that, just like, because there's less repairs that they have to do, they're able to have nicer, you can have nicer things if you don't have to spend as much money fixing all of the stuff that you have, right? If there's less wear and tear, you can spend more money to make it look nicer and all that good stuff. So now, one thing that would fix that whole road situation would be, I don't remember who it is, but there's somebody who has a patent, actually, I believe, for hexagonal, basically, road pieces that are solar panels that would essentially, everywhere there is roads, they could replace it with these solar panels, and they're a little bit less maintenance, for the fact of, like, in some ways they're more maintenance, because a solar panel is more delicate than a chunk of asphalt, but in some ways it's less likely to need repairs because there doesn't have to be as high of weather temperature fluctuation, because it's a piece of electronics that you could use some of the power generated from the sun that these solar panels are generating. You could use that to heat it to have whatever heat trace, heat tape in so that they never freeze up and you don't ever have to have snowplows driving on these roads or anything like that, because the snow won't stay because the road itself will be heated. But that still doesn't solve the whole issue of there being nowhere to charge your car. And so I live in central Alberta, about 30 minutes west of Red Deer, if you know where that is. I only know, I'm sure there's charging locations in Calgary and Edmonton, wherever few and far between they are. In Red Deer, I think there's a total of 4 parking spots that they're like similar to handicap spots, right? Like it's a special spot, but or family only, small child parking or whatever, like family with small children, or it's similar to one of those where it's just like special parking, but the only people that are allowed to park there is hybrid or electric vehicles that need a charging station, because that's what it is. There's an electronic charging station right there. So in that situation, it'd be fine if I worked at the mall where that charging station was. Then I could just drive my car, park it in that parking spot or whatever, charge it up, or park it there after lunch and charge it up for the afternoon or whatever I needed to do to be able to get home at night. But working in I live in a really small town and I work in only a slightly larger town. So first of all, I'd have to rig up my own house with plugs for it, which obviously you'd have to do that anyways. But then if I wanted to be able to plug it in when I'm at work, I'd have to pay or see if I could get my boss to put in plugs for this, which seems highly unlikely. So that's the problem where we stand right now. There's not really infrastructure for it, at least where I live. So I would love it if I could be driving an electric car even right now, but it's just not feasible at this time. But like I said, hope they're going forward with more of this driverless technology and stuff like that. And so the farther along that the technology comes, the cheaper it is, the more easily accessible, the more likely you'll be to be able to have an electric car even in a small town like that I live in. So I don't know, like, what do you guys think? Do you think it'd be cool, boring, or just, I don't know, do you think it'd be the best job ever to sit there and just take notes, sit behind the wheel of a driverless car and just make sure they don't run into anybody, take notes on what's going on? Like, do you think that would, I feel like that would just, I mean, it's the ultimate lazy man's job, I know that, but it definitely feels like it'd be, like here's the real question. So, what is it? Is the car just driving around aimlessly with people, with one guy in it, writing down if something goes wrong? Or is it like, these are like driverless Ubers, but there's still a guy sitting there and he's just writing down, I really don't know what the deal is, but it's really interesting. And if you live in Arizona, maybe it's something you want to look into. But I don't know, I think that it's a pretty cool thing that they're doing. What do you guys think? Do you think that self-driving cars are good? Do you think that this job would be a good job? I don't know. Let me know. I'm interested in what you guys think. So, next thing that I want to talk about is there's a new law in Indonesia that, let me, just a second here. So, yeah. Under a new law, Indonesia will plant microchips on/in all of its convicted child rapists so that they can be monitored at all times. It will also impose chemical castration for convicted pedophiles and child rapists. So this is a little bit of a heavier subject, and I want to know, what do you guys think? Do you think that this is that this is a good thing, or do you think that this is a bad thing? Do you think that the punishment fits the crime? Like, I really thoroughly believe that castrating someone who rapes a child isn't a bad thing. Making it so that you take that possibility away from them, and it also is humiliating for them, I'm sure. I think, honestly, like, pedophiles and child rapists are the lowest class of human being. I don't care if you're a serial killer. That's not as bad as fucking kids. Like, holy shit, I can't even fathom what kind of fucking person would do that? Because, yeah, cool, you got your jollies for however fucking long, 30 seconds. Now that kid has to live with the fact that some horrible fucking monster did this to them for the rest of their life. And that's not something anyone should have to deal with. Especially a child. So, I personally think, like, some people say, give these guys the death penalty. If you're a rapist or a child sex offender, pedophile, you should just get the death penalty right away. And I personally don't agree with that, just for the simple fact that it's too easy. I think if you're that messed up, you should suffer for what you've done. If you've done something that horrible to somebody, you don't just get off as easy as just being done. Now you're dead. Now you don't have to worry about it anymore. Because, I mean, it's different if you're super religious and you believe you go to hell after doing something bad. But my personal beliefs aren't that. And I know I might lose some viewers for saying that, but I think everyone's allowed to believe whatever you want. I don't know what happens after death, but I personally just think nothing happens. So it's almost too easy of an out to give somebody the death penalty. I think if you kill somebody, like, that's then maybe, like, that's the thing. Punishment needs to fit the crime. So the only time the death penalty is necessary is if you for sure know that this person killed somebody, kind of a thing, right? Like, if it's been proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that somebody killed somebody else, yeah, kill them. Like, eye for an eye, right? Or maybe not, depends on, let me know what you think. But I think for a rapist, it's different. You don't just kill them and let them get off the easy way. You make them suffer. That's why, like, nobody likes rapists. If a rapist goes to prison, usually the guards will tell the other prisoners that's what they're in there for, and then that person will subsequently get beaten to within an inch of their life, because not even a murderer likes a fucking child rapist. So I personally think that it's a good thing. Keep tabs on these motherfuckers. Don't let them have the tools to hurt anyone else. I mean, they're still a human being and they can still do other things, but go as far as you can to make it so that they can't do this again. But don't let them just get off with the easy fact of death. Like, make these people suffer. That's what I think. But it doesn't really matter what I think. I want to know what you guys think. This is more of a group discussion, and I want to know, am I wrong? Do you think the death penalty is never okay? Do you think that chemical castration is not the right answer? Like, I want to know, what do you guys think should be done about these type of people? Do you think that maybe they should try and undergo some form of rehab, and that it's just a mental illness that they could get over? I don't know. I want to know what you guys think. Just let me know in the comments, because I'm really interested to hear some other people's thoughts on this. So now, change of tone to something a little bit lighter, less hardcore. Well, depending on your definition of hardcore. The Assassin's Creed, the first trailer for the new Assassin's Creed movie came out, and I personally, I'm really looking forward to this movie for multiple reasons. So first of all, I wasn't ever huge on the Assassin's Creed franchise. I played a little bit of some of the earlier ones, but I never got that deep into it. And then when Assassin's Creed Black Flag came out, I got it because it's a pirate game, and I like pirates. I think they're a cool part of history. And I think that it's an incredibly well done game. And the only, like, so for me, I like an Assassin's Creed game, but it's because it's a pirates game, right? So I've never been huge on the actual Assassin's Creed franchise itself. Mostly because I don't know, I never been a huge fan of third-person games. So the Pirates one, it got me into it because it's a pirate game, and there's not a lot of those that are well done. And so that game got me interested in Assassin's Creed. The parts that I didn't like were the parts in the present day where you're just a computer hacker, but I think watching that in a movie would be better than playing it in a game. Because when I'm playing a video game, I want to do spectacular things, right? I want to be a pirate or a fucking assassin or whatever. I want to do these amazing things. I want to steal cars and shoot up people if I want to, whatever. I want to be able to do all these things in a video game. I don't want to be slowly walking around a video game company fucking hacking into computers. That's not a fun video game. You can fucking get a job doing that shit. So that part was what threw me off. But like I said, that's just because it's a game. You don't want to play a game that's like that. But a movie, an Assassin's Creed movie, as soon as I heard that, I instantly, there's so many amazing ideas going on in my head. I knew they weren't going to do like a Assassin's Creed Black Flag movie. But I think the way that they're handling this, everything that's come out, is being handled incredibly well. So basically, this Assassin's Creed movie takes place in the same universe as all of the games, right? So there's still Abstergo Entertainment, there's still the Animus and all this stuff. But the thing that's different is, like, most video game movies, it's a movie based off of a video game. But this movie is not based off of a video game. It's based off of a video game franchise, but it's an entirely brand new story, like new characters, everything. It's all new, just in the same universe. And I think that will help it a lot in terms of, like, lots of times you'll see a video game movie and they'll have a part that reminds you of the game, and then you're like, why am I watching this shitty movie of a game that I love when I could just be at home playing the actual game, right? But I feel like with Assassin's Creed it's a little bit different, because for me personally, like I said, I've never been huge on the games. I like the fourth one quite a bit, but I've always liked the lore and the actual idea of there's these two groups, the Assassins and the Templars, and they've been fighting throughout history, and now there's modern day, the groups still exist in modern day, but they're more secret, and like they send people back in time through memories to relive things in history. Like I just think it's a really cool idea, and I'm really excited to see it in a movie, because that's the thing. Like I said, I liked Black Flag because it was a Pirates game, but I don't think I would play another Assassin's Creed game all the way through, because it does get repetitive and stuff like that. But the repetitiveness for Black Flag I was fine with, because it was repetitive doing things that I just loved, whereas there was some parts that were repetitive that I didn't like, and I think those are were the things that are in all the Assassin's Creed games, less just in this game. Like the stuff that I liked the most about Black Flag was the actual pirate stuff and less the actual assassin stuff. But I'm incredibly intrigued to actually see it play out on the big screen, especially with somebody like Michael Fassbender and Marion Cotillard, a pair of incredible talent. Yeah, like overall this movie, everything that has come out so far has me excited, and I'm really looking forward to it. And then this trailer drops, I guess it was, yesterday, the day before, a couple days ago anyways. And the start of the trailer is magnificent. I think the actual whole trailer as a whole is really well done. My only issue with it is the Kanye West music that plays. I just think it doesn't fit that well with the idea of an Assassin's Creed movie. Like they say, welcome to the Spanish Inquisition, and then Kanye West starts playing. It felt a little bit like in The Great Gatsby when there was Jay-Z playing the whole time, and it just felt like they were mixing time eras in a way that just didn't fit. And I feel like that's the same thing with the music. Apparently there's another recut version of the trailer with music from the actual game itself. I still haven't seen it, but I really want to find it online and check that out, because that would be really interesting. All the visuals are really good, and everything I've seen, like I said, this trailer looks really good. It's just that the song choice that I didn't like. So I'm really intrigued to see this movie. I cannot wait until it comes out. I think it's December, like the week after Star Wars, which might not be the best time for a movie to come out, but hey, they must have faith in it if it's coming out over the holiday season. And that's good news for me. Like I love good movies, and I can't wait to see this one, and I hope it is. And if this movie is good, it could be the beginning of good video game movies. Because like I said a little bit ago, usually video game movies aren't good, but it's not because they don't have good stories to work off of. It's because studios don't seem to care or put much money into them to make them good. So, I don't know. There's a few that aren't bad. I saw Doom when I was young enough that I thought that it was fun. Like, I didn't dislike it. I saw it when I was pretty young. Mortal Kombat, of course, is just amazing. Yeah, like that's the thing. I can't think of any other really video game movies that I enjoy that much. Wreck-It Ralph, which isn't actually based off a real video game, but is amazing. It's a fucking incredible movie. Best video game movie ever made. Pixels wasn't as bad as what everyone said, but it's definitely not a good movie. So that's the thing. There's a horrible track record for video game movies. I don't hate the Super Mario Brothers movie, but also that's because I knew going into it that it was one of the worst movies ever. So, like, I was like, well, it's not quite... Like, there's at least a couple things that are kind of cool. Like, the fact that the movie exists is amazing to me. But it also is horrible because it ruined us getting Nintendo movies for fucking the next, like, 30 years. Nintendo's talking about now they're going to start making some movies again, but holy shit, that was a long break. But anyways... Back to Assassin's Creed. I'm really looking forward to it. I cannot wait, and I think that it will be the beginning of a new era in video game movies where studios actually invest some money and make sure that they're actually good. So, let me know what you guys thought of the trailer, the Assassin's Creed trailer, or overall, if you're looking forward to the movie at all or anything like that, and do you think that this, or maybe Warcraft, will be the start of the new thing? Because basically The Dark Knight and Iron Man and The Incredible Hulk coming out in 2008 was the beginning of the comic book franchise as we know it today. Because before that, yeah, there was comic book movies here and there, but it was never the way that we know it. And so Dark Knight, which is arguably the best comic book film of all time, it's not my number one, but it's a lot of people's, and it's understandable. Like, it's an incredible movie. But then you take that, add the fact that Iron Man came out that year, which is also is an incredible movie, and it's one that is up there with The Dark Knight. I mean, it depends. I think The Dark Knight is probably a little bit better, but I also think that Iron Man is more of a comic book movie than The Dark Knight. I think The Dark Knight is an incredible movie, but not a very good comic book movie. It's more of just a police drama with some insane guy who dresses like a bat and some other insane guy who wears clown makeup. It's less a Batman movie and more just a crime drama, right? But in the same way that year was the beginning, well, I mean, there was kind of a lull in 2009, but I believe 2010 was when Thor and Captain America... Oh no, 2010 was Iron Man 2, then 2011 was Thor, Captain America, then 2012 was The Avengers. So... 2008 was really when we saw the start of this modern generation of comic book movies as we know it today. Do you think that either Warcraft or Assassin's Creed, or maybe both, have the possibility of being as good as, say, Dark Knight or Iron Man, or even The Incredible Hulk, which I personally enjoy? It's one of my favorite Marvel movies. I know a lot of people have mixed feelings about it, mixed to negative, but I personally really like it. So do you think Assassin's Creed and Warcraft could be that for the video game franchise or video game genre? Do you think that we're going to see a huge boost in the next few years of video game movies that will be being made? I personally do, but I'd love to hear your thoughts. I mean, they've already announced, I think it was Alicia Vikander is going to be Tomb Raider. There's another game that they were just talking about the other day. But yeah, I personally think there's about to be a huge rise in video game movies. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. Or if you're listening to this on iTunes, you could tweet at us at What We Talkin', or you could just tweet at me at Winter Trooper. Or if you're listening to this on SoundCloud, you can comment as well. Now there's one last piece of news, and then I'll do reading, watching, playing. The final bit of news here is actually about the Nintendo NX, which is the next console like it's the code name for the next console coming out from Nintendo. And the rumor is right now that they're bringing back cartridge gaming for their next console. And so you may think this is like, we already have discs, why would you go back to cartridges? But do we really have discs at this point? Because from what I can remember, I have a PlayStation 4 and I have an Xbox One. And when I get a new game, I have to download the disc onto my Xbox or my PlayStation anyways, because the console itself is too fast to actually read the discs. Like, it's computing at too high of a rate for the disc to keep up. So that's why you have to have a large portion of the disc actually installed onto your console. Otherwise, you can't even play the game. Now, Wii U gets around this because it's just not as powerful of a machine as PlayStation and Xbox, but the NX is talking about they want it to be like a revolutionary gaming console, the most powerful gaming console that we've ever seen. And what's a good way of doing that? And it will also decrease load times, stuff like that, using physical means instead, other than discs, whether it be, say, flash drives. Like, what if games just came on flash drives instead? Or think like a DS cartridge. Nintendo's been doing it. It's not like they've left the game of cartridge gaming. DS and 3DS has been cartridges. They've never stopped with handheld cartridge gaming. And I thought for sure the new future was discs. I thought maybe even disc/digital handheld gaming with the PSP and the PS Vita, but the DS and the 3DS kill it. And I don't know if I've ever met somebody who has a PS Vita. So I don't know, like, it's really interesting, and I think it's a really cool thing to think about, that we think discs are the best thing, but are they really? And I really don't think they are. For me personally, I only own about 4 games on actual discs anymore. Most of the games that I buy, I just download straight to my console, because then I don't have to worry about, like, then I can just select the game and start playing. Like, I don't have to find the disc, put it in the console. Like, discs are becoming an outdated source anyways. It's trending towards digital. So what if also not only just not having the discs and having digital gaming, but instead of discs, replacing it with, like I said, whether it be a flash drive or like a USB drive or whatever. I think it's really interesting, and it could work. Like, I don't see why it wouldn't work. Like, if you recall, or if you, like, N64 didn't really have load times, especially compared to, say, PlayStation 1, because PlayStation 1 had to read all of its data off of a disc, and N64 just had it already in a cartridge. Like, it was easy to access. And I don't know, I think that maybe this is, I don't know whether or not this is the future of gaming. I think personally, greater amounts of storage, hard drive wise, 1 to 2 terabytes, stuff like that, and then you would have just download all your games. I think that's probably the trend that is going to be in the future, but I don't know. Like, the whole cloud, I think that, or big, like I said, bigger hard drives, whether it be 1 or 2 terabytes, 3 terabytes, whatever. I think that that will be the future as compared to the cartridges. But what do you guys think? Do you think it's a good idea, Nintendo going back to cartridges, or do you think that it's just a dumb retro idea and then they're trying to capitalize on nostalgia? I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts? But that was the last bit of news that I wanted to talk about. So, like I said, any of the topics we discussed today on the show, I want to know your guys' thoughts. Let me know in the comments below if you're watching this on YouTube. If you're listening to this on either iTunes or SoundCloud, you can, like I said, comment on SoundCloud or shoot me a tweet at Winter Trooper. Or if you'd like, you could use our Gmail account, just what we talking about today at gmail.com. But now it's on to the segment of the show that I like to call, What Have We Been Reading, Watching, or Playing? What are we going to be reading, watching, or playing? I don't know if that's what I like to call it, but that's what I'm going to call it today. It's the reading, watching, or playing segment. So for me, I've been playing some Fallout 4, been catching up. In fact, I will probably be live streaming some Fallout 4 at around 6:30 p.m. almost every night. Definitely Monday night, Tuesday night probably. I might not Tuesday, but almost certainly I will be Thursday. And I believe, what's the date? The 16th. Yeah, I think Thursday is the day that the new DLC comes out as well. So I'll be live streaming, playing the new DLC. So check that out. But for me, I just finished, not reading, but audiobooking the new, I think it's the newest Star Wars novel, and it's definitely the newest from Claudia Gray, called Bloodline. And it's a story about Leia, and Bloodline, of course, referring to both the fact that she is technically adopted into the bloodline of royalty in Alderaan, plus she is part of the bloodline of the Skywalkers. So that plays a part in the story. It's a major part of it, right? Now, I just gotta say, this is an incredible story. Both in terms of just like it's an incredibly interesting story, and it's a lot of insight into the First Order, the Resistance, the way that the government works in the New Republic. I think this is I wish this book would have come out before Episode 7. I wish I could have read this before Episode 7 because it gives you such incredible insight into the world of Star Wars that's going on during Episode 7. They talk about Ben Skywalker, they talk about Han Solo, Luke Skywalker, they talk, this is the book that you need to read. If you don't know what book to read first in Star Wars, in the new Star Wars, expanded universe, read Bloodlines. If you want to know what book will help make the movies better, read Bloodlines. It is definitely the most relevant book, at least in terms of what I've read so far. I still haven't read Tarkin, New Dawn. There's a few that I haven't read, but from what I've read, this is definitely the #1 most relevant to the movies. There's Elo Asti is in this book. He was in Star Wars Episode 7. There's multiple Star Wars Episode 7 characters. They talk about where Luke is, where Ben is, where Han is. They talk about all that stuff, and it takes place around 6 years before The Force Awakens. So I don't want to spoil too much because it's an incredible story and there's a lot of twists and stuff like that it's better to find out while reading it or listening to it, right? I think it's around 12 hours on SoundCloud, or not on SoundCloud, sorry, on Audible. I recommend it, highly recommend it. Like I said, it's the most relevant book to the Star Wars universe in terms of the movies. So definitely check out Bloodline by Claudia Gray. Yeah, I can't just gush about this book enough. Read it, read it, read it. It is incredible. It's not the best. I still like Lords of the Sith better, I think. And it's a toss-up between this and Lost Stars. Lost Stars had an incredible relationship between the two main characters. But this book, there's a better... Leia is more well portrayed in this book than she was in The Force Awakens, easily. This is one of the best versions, best portrayals of Leia I've ever seen. It's the Leia that I fell in love with as a young boy. That sounds weird, but it's true. So, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Thanks for checking us out. That's going to be it for us for this episode. So, like I said, thanks for listening and watching and all that good stuff. If you want, you can get a hold of me on Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram, all that good stuff, at Winter Trooper. If you want to suggest topics for the show, you could email us. It'll be down here at whatwetalkingaboutoday@gmail.com, and then you could just tweet at us at whatwetalking. We also have an Instagram at that account, and if it helps us, it's easier to find if you just use hashtag WAWTAPod. And yeah, you can like us on Facebook if you're watching on SoundCloud. Subscribe, comment, all that fun stuff on iTunes. Rate, review, subscribe, all that fun stuff. And whatever. If you liked it, thanks. If you didn't like it, Thanks. Thanks for listening, and until next time, never stop letting the car drive itself.